Well, Leaf fans, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of time to kind of get over that Boston series because it was tough. But don't worry, the Bruins didn't go much farther. They got absolutely butt slapped by the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5 games, so that was that. Any Bruin fans chirping? Not really much to chirp about, but okay. Anyways, we are here today to talk about the Leafs 2017-28 season as a whole. What were the good, what was the bad? Kind of like the offseason preview. We'll be talking about the draft. We'll be talking about our free agents, our restricted and unrestricted free agents, what I personally think they should do, and also the free agents in general out there in the NHL. All right, so we'll be talking about that kind of stuff. So let's start right out of the gate with the Leafs 2017-2018 season. And you know what? We got a game longer than we did last year, I guess. You know, we lost in 6 to the Capitals. We lost in 7 to the Boston Bruins, but this Leaf team did not quit. They were down 3-1. They came back and made it Game 7. They had the lead in the third period like we're used to seeing, but they blew it. But it's okay, because we're over it. Kind of. They showed a lot of good things. And in that series, Matthews, Nylander, and even Freddie Anderson weren't that great. Freddie had his games, but overall, he wasn't the Freddie we saw last year against Washington. And we still forced Game 7. That tells you how deep this team is. Now, the problem with that, we'll get to it in a second, the upcoming free agents. We'll talk about that whole thing and all that stuff in a little bit. But I thought it was a very successful season. You know, this team went into their first playoffs last year, and they lost. They fought, they were the underdog, but they lost. This year, there was a little bit more oomph in this team, but in the end, the more experienced Boston Bruins, and I don't care, Bruin fans, you know, look, I understand you have a lot of young players, but your core players, Bergeron, Chara, David Backes, Brad Marchand, they're your core guys, and they've been through this many times. This Leafs core, people say, oh, Bozak and JV. That's the third line. You can't give me that. The first line of Matthews, Nylander, and Zach Hyman, other than last season against the Caps, have barely ever been in the playoffs. And yes, they had a tough one, and it just baffles me. It baffles me when people start saying that Matthews and Nylander are not playoff performers. Did you see last year against the Capitals what they did? So it's not like it's just this 1 year. It's a tough year. Whatever. We'll get through it. But we know what the main problem was. Defense. That was really it. Freddie was okay. But if he had better defenders in front of him, he might have not done too bad at all. But overall, I thought Freddie had a great year overall. Matthews' regular season, other than the injuries, I thought he was great. You know, the team overall, I'd say it was a very successful season. As much as a lot of Leaf fans wanted to get to round 2, it's a process, guys. Babcock said there was going to be pain when he came in. And look, guys, I hear some people, and I'm not talking about anybody in the comments or something, but I hear all over the place about people talking Mike Babcock down and saying how he's not really that good of a coach. Look at his playoff record. He can only do so much with the defense core that he has. People talking about Roman Polak and why he's not doing so well. Why he was on the ice so much. Well, I kind of get that, but Babcock had that feeling, and I trust him. And when Mike Babcock came onto this team, every Leaf fan I can basically say every single Leaf fan told you, whoever, that if something goes wrong with a certain player, it is not Babcock, it is that player. But now we're questioning Babcock, right? You can't be doing that, guys. It's not his fault. He's doing everything he can. Mid-game, trying to switch up lines, trying to get something going, but he can't. The guys weren't clicking at times. It happens. It's the game of hockey. Whatever. No one's perfect. They have a tough time there, but you know what? Like I've said, like I've reiterated a few times now, this season was a success. A lot of guys had career years. I know Jake Gardiner, guys, I know Game 7, but he knows Game 7 too well. He's not going to be able to forget that until we get over the hump next year. Morgan Rielly had one heck of a season. Ron Hainsey had a great year with the Leafs, but he cannot be playing those type of minutes next year. That cannot be happening. He is getting older, and he looked tired at the end of this season. He cannot be playing that type of minutes next year. Again, Kadri had a good year. Marner had his career season. I thought he was spectacular all season long. Kapanen had a little bit of a breakout year. I thought he was great. Andreas Janssen got called up. He was terrific when he was. And Marleau was exactly what we saw, what we advertised. And nobody's talking about his contract now because he gave you what we were expecting. A 20-goal scorer, almost a 30-goal scorer, and about 30, 40 points, but a lot of goals. And that's what we got from Patty Marleau. So overall, the team looked pretty good. Now, moving on from last year, because we don't want to dwell on it too much, because it is come and gone. That's it. The first thing on the Leafs agenda is the draft. Now, we have the 25th pick. I'm not sure if that can change at all. I think I heard somewhere it can jump to 23rd. I don't know if that's changed since then. But as of right now, we have the 25th overall pick. Now, what do you guys want? For me, I would love a defenseman. I think we all agree with that. Forward depth, we know what we got. We got a lot of it. And there is free agency. Defense, I think, is something this team really has to look into, and I'm looking at the guys here. I have it on half of my screen here. Nils Hundqvist. He's obviously Swedish, and he's a 5'11" right-handed defenseman from Sweden. And, Swedish defensemen are pretty good. They got some speed. We saw that with Timothy Liljegren last year getting drafted by the Leafs. There are a lot of defensemen guys going in the first round here. I look right underneath him. Condre Miller, I think that's his name. He's a 6'3" defenseman from the U.S. Development League. He's a left-handed defenseman. He's 6'3", okay. Alexander Alexiev, I think, 6'3" left-handed defenseman from Red Deer. Those are the three picks. Our pick, Miller, and Alexiev are the three picks there. So that could be something the Leafs look into. And then I scroll on the list to 31, which as of right now it's going to the Blackhawks, but we don't really know what's going to happen at that point. Ryan Merkley, and that name does sound familiar to a lot of, hockey knowledgeable people. Why? Because obviously his brother Nick Merkley got drafted, I think it was last season, and he's 5'11", but he's a right-handed defenseman from the Guelph Storm. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this guy. I'm pretty sure he dropped quite a bit in the draft rankings. Now, this is just a mock draft. This is nothing, too crazy. This is not written in stone what's going to happen. But these are guys that I'm seeing here, and I'm like, oh, that might not be a bad shot. Might not. Ryan Merkley is a guy I look at, and I'm like, not a bad thing. Now, he's a little bit shorter than we would have liked. We kind of want that bigger-sized defenseman. Because, look, young and speedy is nice, but having some size is always a good thing. And those two 6'3" defensemen up top, they look pretty good. Ryan Merkley's got that skill, and he's a right-handed defenseman, kind of like Liljegren. So, again, there's a few guys there. There's also, I'm trying to look at around where the Leafs are. Sarah Noel from Oshawa, right winger, 6'3". Dominic Bach, 6'1". I don't even know where that is. But he's a center. I'm looking also around here. Martin Cott, 6'1" right winger from Dynamo. That's a big KHL team. Akil Thomas from the Niagara Ice Dogs. Jet Wu from Moose Jaw. So there's a lot of guys around here you guys can look to. Now there will be some guys that drop that a lot of people don't expect. So we're going to go Rasmus Landin, I guess. 6'11" left-handed defenseman from Sweden. He's supposed to go 22nd. We have 25. He could drop. I'm just looking at defensemen here. Jared Isaac's supposed to go 18th to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Left-handed defenseman from the Halifax Mooseheads. There's all kinds of defensemen here, guys. You guys can go check this thing out. But I've said some names, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. I didn't want to go into stats because we'd be here forever. But I gave you some names, kind of gave you their position, their size, what you kind of think about that. And that's for you guys to just go nuts in the comments about that kind of stuff. That's really what this kind of stuff is, right? Me throwing my opinion out there, and then you guys going nuts. So let's move along from the draft, because 25th overall, 23rd overall, whatever it can be. It's nice to have a first rounder, but it's a very late first round pick. But you never know. That's why I wanted to quickly get to that. Now let's get to the big topics for this Leafs offseason, the free agents. Now, we know this Leaf team has a ton of free agents coming up. We know JVR, Bozak, Leo Komarov is the three, I wouldn't say three-headed monster, but the three main guys we're looking at and saying, okay, what do we do? Well, there's tons of options here. We know what this team offensive, the depth they have, so you could afford to lose all these guys. But that would mean that you have to sign some free agents. A guy like Derek Ryan, Riley Nash. We'll get to that in a second. But JVR's contract's up. He was making $4.25 million over, obviously, over the past little while. Tyler Bozak was making $4.2. Leo Komarov, $2.95. And Thomas McCandless is on here, but it looks like he's going to go back to Montreal. So that's $3 million gone right there. So what do you guys think? Do you want to keep JVR, Bozak, Leo Komarov, any of the guys? None of them? I want to hear what you guys have to say. I don't know. JVR, I'd love to keep, but the 5-on-5 shit stuff, the defense for that line really I didn't like it. They don't look great. JVR is a big guy. He does not use his size at all. And you look at Tyler Bozak, he's now 32 years of age. Komarov's 31. So you look at it and you go, well, okay, they're kind of at that stage right now where maybe Bozak can take a little bit less than 4.2. JVR's going to want more because he's 29. He's right in his prime. He's going to want at least 5+. Are the Leafs willing to give him that? I'm not sure. He's great in front of the net. He's got a pretty decent shot. But other than that, I don't know about JVR. His speed is, his defense is, So I don't know what you guys think. I don't know. I had a JVR jersey. I like the way he plays, grinded out in front of the net. But in the all-around game, I'm not so sure. Bozak, he's always been a great face-off taker for this guy. The Leafs have been his only team he's ever played for. Obviously undrafted, signing with the Leafs and then becoming number one center. It's okay. You know what? If he wants to come back, I'd be okay with it. It all depends on the money. And I think that's a big thing for this team. Leo Komarov, look, guys. There are Leo Komarovs out in the world. They're replaceable players. I know. We love Uncle Leo. I know. But he's making almost $3 million. If he wants 1 to 1.5, we might be able to talk with that. But I don't think so. He's 31. He's not nearing the end of his career, but he's at plus 30 now. And that's when teams look at that and they're like, okay, what do we got left with this guy? That's a big thing there. We go down to Dominic Moore. I think he's done. Mike Babcock seemed to try him at the beginning. Didn't really like him. Didn't play much at the end of the season. That was it. And the big name, now he's a restricted free agent, William Nylander. William Nylander. I got your jersey this year. You're an RFA. I know Leaf fans, there are times where we're like, Willie didn't really show what he's really capable of this season. But for this reason, I want him back, very much so. Also, he's a very skilled player. He was a first-round pick. He's a very good-looking player. You got to get him back. Now, the price, well, that's the interesting part. He had a great year last year, great rookie season. This year, I wouldn't say he took a step back, because I think he was right on the same points as last season. His plus-minus is a lot better. That whole Austin Matthews thing was him, Nylander, and Hyman were great. Their plus-minus was through the roof. That is fantastic to see. But what will William Nylander make this offseason for the Leafs? I want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think it's going to be north 6? Do you think it's going to be 5.5? Do you think they're going to kind of go for a Kadri contract, which is about, what am I looking at here? Kadri got 4.5, so I think he'll want probably a little bit more than that. But I want to hear what you guys have to say. What are your opinions? You think he's going to get a bridge deal? I don't know. I have no clue what's going to happen with William Nylander, but it's going to be very interesting to tell. We go to the defense corps. We know Riley's back at $5 million. We know Zaitsev at $4.5 million. And guys, please don't freak out about Zaitsev. He was in and out of the lineup all year long with injury, and he looked good in the last few games of the playoffs because he kind of got his legs going again. Give him some time. Yes, I understand. Well, I guess it says 7 more years, but I think it's 6 more years actually at $4.5 million. Look, if Zaitsev can pan out to be a very good defenseman, like we know he can be, that contract is gorgeous, but you never know. Jake Gardiner, guys, now this is the big thing. Now, we know what he did in Game 7, but overall, he set a career high in points. I think he was still a plus player on the year. And Jake Gardiner, guys, as much as he makes really stupid mistakes, he does a lot more good than he does bad. We just see the bad more often. He had over 50 points, just like Morgan Riley did. The Morgan Riley contract, look, he had a 50-point year. Guys, at 4 years left at $5 million even. That is a nuts contract for a guy doing that kind of stuff. Fantastic for Morgan Riley. As for Jake Gardiner, I don't know. He's going into the last year of his contract. He's going to be 28 years of age when the contract is done. It's in the prime of his deal. He'll probably want to get paid. But what are the Leafs willing to do with him? I don't know. They seem to like him because he plays a ton of minutes. They'll probably sign him back, and we gotta try and look at the positives for Jake Gardiner. That's something I want to do next year. Instead of looking at the negative passes he makes or the stupid mistakes, look at the positives. Watch the nice breakout pass. Watch the nice little the defensive play with his stick, right? Watch those. Don't just look for his bad stuff and just like hammer home that. I want to do something that a little bit different with him this coming season. Ron Hainsey, actually, I think 7 years. Was that? No, 7 years for Zaitsev. That's legit, because I see 2 more years of Ron Hainsey, didn't we? No, 1 more year for Ron Hainsey. Yes, okay. So it is 6 more years for Zaitsev. Ron Hainsey, 1 more year left on his contract. He's making $3 million. He's 37 years of age. Look, as much as he was a workhorse for this team on the penalty kill, left and right, he was spectacular. He should not be playing those type of minutes next season. He can't do it. And this Leaf team, if they want to go anywhere, that cannot be happening. But you never know. This team, look, $3 million for what Ron Hainsey did for us this year, I'll take it in a heartbeat. Now let's get to the free agents, guys. Roman Polak. I kind of broke down the whole Leafs defense core there because it needed to be done. Roman Polak is the unrestricted free agent, and I am done with this whole Roman Polak project. I understand the rough and tough, Roman Polak. No. If he was rough and tough and he had some speed and he was kind of smart, okay. But he's not. I think that whole saga with Roman Polak, I'm pretty sure it's done. Now 32 years of age, I'm tired of it. I know you guys are too. I know Leafs Nation is so tired of it. And I think it's done. But, I mean, hey, stranger things have happened in Leafs Nation. The only restricted free agent for the defense core is Connor Carrick. And I'm kind of shocked he didn't get more of a look in the playoffs. The way the Leafs defense core looked, I'm surprised he didn't get any look at all. He's a restricted free agent. I think they'll give him another 1-year deal or something like that, just to kind of see what they got with him, right? They want to really test him out and see what can happen. I really want to see what Connor Carrick has, because we've seen it in the AHL. He can dominate. But we haven't seen it in the NHL yet. Is it because he hasn't got a big enough shot? Maybe. But we're going to have to wait and see, all right? Now, quickly, guys, just a big round of applause for Joffrey Lupul, because his contract is done now. It's done when this whole contract situation is done. Joffrey Lupul is officially gone. Good riddance. For unrestricted free agents for the minors, we'll go through it really fastly. Really fastly. That's a new word. Really quick. Martin Marincin, Calvin Pickard, Kazimir Kaskasuo, I think it is. Miro Aaltonen, Frederick Gauthier, the big goat. Andreas Janssen is restricted free agent. We know we're going to get him back. Colin Greening, obviously in the Dion trade, got a minor league deal, or got a 1-year, two-way contract, I guess, at the last season. I think he's done. He's a UFA as well. Ben Smith, same thing. He's a UFA. Justin Hall, we saw him with the Leafs. He did very good with the Leafs in his few games he was there. He's a restricted free agent. And Kyle Bond, we picked him up in the Plekanec trade as well. He's an unrestricted free agent. I think that's all she wrote there. That's all we want to do with that. Now, I've left it all up to you guys. Go nuts about these contracts and who you want back and all that kind of stuff. Now, for the fun stuff. Free agency. Let's go through some, I don't think wingers are a big problem for this Leaf team. I really don't think so. So, centers. Let's say you lose Bozak, and we know we're losing Plekanec. Do you trust Aaltonen to take on the third line spot? Do you trust Frederick Gauthier? No. You want to get a center. Okay, who's out there? I'm going to go through the list. I'm not saying who I want. I'm just going through the list. John Tavares, Paul Stastny, obviously Tyler Bozak's there, Riley Nash, Derek Ryan, Big Jumbo Joe Thornton. That'd be interesting to get him back with Patty Marleau. Valtteri Filppula, Kyle Brodziak, David Desharnais. Those are the top 10 that I see here when it comes to, I don't know what it's for. But nonetheless, that's what that is. Those are the top 10 center free agents. You guys can go nuts with that. A guy like Derek Ryan, Mike Babcock loved him because he's a right-handed face-off taker, kind of like Tyler Bozak. How did he do this year with the Carolina Hurricanes? 38 points. He had a great year a year ago. The Leafs didn't sign him. He re-signed with Carolina and had a 38-point season. A guy like Riley Nash might not be a bad idea. He had 41 points with the Bruins this year. Again, those two type of guys, 28 years old is Riley Nash, 31 for Derek Ryan, could be possible targets in the center core. Jay Beagle for the Capitals. He's an unrestricted free agent. Matt Cullen, Tim Schaller. I'm not going to go down too far here, but those are some names to fire out there. You guys can look at some other ones if you guys have any other ideas, chip in there. But a guy like Riley Nash or Derek Ryan are two guys that I'm looking at maybe. Joe Thornton, I think he'll want too much money because he's right at the end of his. Maybe he won't. I don't know. I think we want to give him a 1-year deal if anything. So I don't know what's going to happen with this team with the center core. But those are some options. Now let's go to the only really reason we're talking about this right now: the defense core. And this team needs to change some things. Look, you look at your left-handed defenseman and your right-handed defenseman. Okay. Jake Gardner, Morgan Riley, and Travis Dermott. Those are your 3 left-handed defensemen. On the right side, we had Ron Hainsey over there. Connor Carrick and Roman Polak. And Nikita Zaitsev. So you can take out Polak or whomever. Do you really trust that entire defense core going into next year? I don't know if I do. So, who's out there? John Carlson is the big name that's roaming around. He's gonna want a big contract. He's 28, right in the prime of his years. He's an unrestricted free agent of the Washington Capitals. Who knows? They might even sign him back. I don't know. But I'm just talking as of right now. This is what I'm seeing. Mike Green is out there. He's kind of at the tail end of his. He's only 32, but he's at the tail end of his career in my eyes. Thomas Hickey. He's a guy I want this team to really look at. You know, he was a top 5 pick in the draft when he was drafted. He's 29 years of age now. He only had 24 points this year, if I'm looking at him right. Yes, I am, 24 points. But on the New York Islanders, he was I think it was like plus 15 or higher. I don't know the exact number, but because I can't really look at the screen. Oh, I can. Look at that. He was a plus 19 on the New York Islanders. That tells me right there that he is not too shabby whatsoever. So those are options. That's something that we can maybe look into as well. I'm going to write through the names: Dan Hamhuis, Kevin Connaughton, Ian Cole, Brendan Manning, John Moore, Nick Holden, Francois Beauchemin, Lucas Spiza, Christian Folan, Greg Patterin, Mark Barberio, and then Roman Polak, and then Jack Johnson's down there, Alexei Yelin, Johnny Oduya, Andre Schuster. If you're looking for a big defenseman, he's like 6'8", so that's a big guy. Cody Franzen's on here. So there are some guys. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Everyone's going to say, well, go after John Carlson. Well, that'd be nice. That'd be really nice. But what do you do with Matthews, Marner, Nylander when the time comes? With a giant contract that Carlson's going to want, in 81 games, he had 67 points, 15 goals as a defenseman. A Norris Trophy candidate. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but a candidate. You're not going to get him for cheap. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Leafs do. I mean, you're going to lose the $3 million of Thomas Buchanan, the $4.2 of Tyler Bozak, the $4.5 of JVR, and the $2.95 of Leo Komarov. Oh, the $1.1 of Polak and the $1 million of Don Moore. But those are a lot. That's a lot of money lost. So you could maybe go after a guy like John Carlson. And I don't know. I don't know how they're looking at it right now, but it is an option. I don't know if they'll go after it because that'll cut things tight when it comes to contracts in the future. I think a guy like Thomas Hickey would be a very good pickup for the team. Ian Cole has always been around, the trading block with the Penguins this year. Obviously ended up going to the Columbus Blue Jackets, who got knocked out in the first round. So, hey, there's lots of options out there. I want to hear what you guys have to say. We're going to wrap this baby up real quick. A really long video, but it had to be done. All right, so you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. You guys enjoyed this video, and you guys are pumped for the offseason to get started for this team because we want to see a little bit of change, kind of see like a little bit of molding with this team as we move into the 2018-2019 season. All right, so hit that like button if you guys enjoy this one. Hit that subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below what you guys think of the video. What are your expectations for the offseason? Who do you think they're going to take in the draft? Who do you think they're going to let go in free agency? Who do you think they're going to pick up in free agency? And also, How was the season last year for you? I want to hear what you guys have to say, and we'll talk to you guys, well, whenever, Leafs edition, whenever the draft pops around, if there's any moves made, we'll talk to you guys then, and we'll talk to you guys Blue Jays edition tomorrow as they take on the Seattle Mariners for a 3-game set, starting tomorrow night at 7:07. James Paxton on the mound for the, Seattle Mariners. I think Marcus Stroman on the mound for the Blue Jays. He's looking for back-to-back really good starts, and that'd be nice to see from Marcus to really get him going. And as for the Raptors, Game 4 is in about an hour. All right, as the Raptors look to force a Game 5. That's really all I got to say about that, but I hope you guys enjoy this one. We'll talk to you guys then.